This meeting is being recorded.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for our exciting panel on climbing the federal ladder, featuring 3 distinguished Muslim women in the SES, hosted by Amber Chaudhry. I'd like to thank our event co-sponsors, Muslim Women's Professional Network, Islamic Scholarship Fund, American Muslim Today, and Muslim Urban Professionals, MUPPIs. My name is Ahmed Maati, Board Chair of Muslim Americans in Public Service, a national nonprofit member organization that aims to build and formalize community, promote institutional representation, and facilitate the professional development of Muslim American public servants. If you're not already a member, I urge you to join today for free at mapsnational.org, or to do your part to share your talents or learn from others in our amazing growing community. Our event host today, Amber Chaudhry, is an entrepreneur, customer experience strategist, and diversity advocate. Amber started her career with AmeriCorps in Miami, where she helped low-income earning immigrants and dreamers apply for citizenship and DACA. After entering federal service as a Presidential Management Fellow, very distinguished program, by the way, she was engaged by the Small Business Administration, the SBA, to lead the agency's rebranding, and later elevated to Customer Experience Lead in the Office of Chief Information Officer. There she helped SBA deliver 14 years worth of loans in 14 days to support the nation's COVID recovery. She's since then been elevated again to lead customer experience strategist with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. In addition to all that, Amber co-founded the MAPS Employee Resource Group at the SBA and co-founded MAPS National itself when 6 leaders from the only 4 Muslim employee resource groups in the federal government met 2 summers ago to build MAPS for everyone. Thank you for hosting today, Amber, and take it away.
Thank you, Ahmed. Now that I'm thoroughly embarrassed, I just want to welcome everyone to our very own Women's History Month event. I'm joined today by 3 trailblazers who have made history for the Muslim Americans in public service community. I hope that everyone here is a federal employee who is familiar with the Senior Executive Service. But if not, the SES is designed to be a core of executives selected for their leadership qualifications, serving in key positions just below the top presidential appointees as a link between them and the rest of the federal service. They play a big part in helping the president execute on their administration's strategic priorities. And our 3 distinguished panelists have all achieved the ranks of SES. Not only that, they are all moms, which goes to show you that it is possible to balance work and everyday life. And so I can't wait to introduce you to our first panelist. We have Madiha Latif. And I will tell you, when I first met Madiha, I thought I had spotted a unicorn, like I always tell her. So Madiha is the Deputy Assistant Commissioner within the Revenue Collections Management at the U.S. Department of Treasury's Bureau of Fiscal Service. She has oversight responsibility for the government's collection and settlement of over $4 trillion in federal revenue each year. Prior to joining the federal government, Madiha has held several leadership positions within the private sector, supporting the federal government. She is also a veteran, having served in war zones with the active duty Army. Thank you so much for joining us today, Madiha. Next, we have Sairah Ijaz. When I met Sairah recently, I was instantly starstruck. I couldn't believe that I spotted a second Muslim SES and also a hijabi at that one. So Sairah serves as the Assistant Chief Financial Officer for Systems at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. With 20 years of service to the federal government, her passion lies in enabling the government to use financial data to drive innovation, improve operations, and deliver services more effectively. Sairah is a mother of 3. She also serves on the board of Liver Mamas and Families for a 501c3 charity supporting families of children with life-threatening liver disease and liver transplants. Last but not least, we have Subhi Mehdi. So Subhi retired from the U.S. Senior Executive Service in 2015 with a career spanning about 30 years and across the Department of Veterans Affairs, HHS, and the U.S. Agency for International Development. She has been a public health advisor for over 20 years and has partnered with various national and international institutions to promote best practices and strategies for improving living conditions of U.S. friends and allies overseas. Following her lifelong career in serving vulnerable populations, she currently mentors the youth in our community and volunteers for multiple national and local organizations. I told Subhi she was our OG or original gangster for paving the way for the rest of us. So we're just going to jump into the questions. So I think to start, if you all can provide a quick overview of your journey to SES, that would be great. And so Sairah, if we could start with you.
I think we're, I muted.
Thanks for having us. And thank you, Amber and Ahmed, for organizing this event. And you thoroughly, at least, embarrassed me. I was not expecting such nice words, but thank you for those. So Amber mentioned, I am currently the Assistant Chief Financial Officer for Systems at HUD, but I actually started as a GS5 at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission as an intern during school. I was over the summers and winter break. And then from that, once I graduated with my undergraduate degree at University of Maryland, I went up to work at the Social Security Administration. And I was able to get into the career ladders that they have. It was like a GS7 through 11 ladder. And so I was at Social Security Administration and found a great opportunity at the Government Accountability Office through friends, and I'm sure we're going to talk about networks and things like that later. But through that opportunity, I was able to come to the Government Accountability Office, which had a little bit of a different pay structure. It was pay bands. After coming from there, I went to private sector, getting away much from auditing and doing more execution. So it allowed me to kind of branch into a different area. And then I re-entered the government at HUD as a GS15. I worked in a couple of details in our budget office and was the advisor to our chief financial officer. And when this SES position was made available, they asked me to act in the role, and I did. And then later applied for the position itself, and was honored to join the SES in September of 2020.
Wow, a GS5. Also, it's my dream to go to private sector and come back. So it's good to know that you have kind of like paved the way for that. So Madiha, can you give us your career journey snapshot as well?
Yeah, thanks, Amber, and everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to have met other trailblazing women that are on this panel with me and celebrating Women's History Month. Super excited and just humbled, right? So thanks for the great intro, Amber. To add a bit more color, I would like to take you on a short journey. So come on with me. I started my military career after high school at the age of 17. And it was a bit of a rebellious statement more than anything for me, because you see, I'm of South Asian ethnicity and grew up in New York City to parents who immigrated to America when we were very young to give us a better life. And trust me when I tell you guys this, that they wanted nothing more for me to be than to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer. Like, those are the only three things my parents knew. Military was definitely not something they saw for me. It was not on their radar. And, of course, career in public service, they didn't even know. So, and here we are, right? My parents, especially my mother, she's a strong woman, had 3 jobs at any given time, which many times made me the caregiver for my young brother and sister, right? And she knew that she was raising an independent and strong woman. My father was nothing but supportive of my aspirations. So that's exciting in itself. In the Army, I was a 92 Alpha, which is a logistics specialist, and it's basically anything dealing with supply chain management. But I also spoke fluently Urdu and Punjabi, right, which became extremely helpful after 9/11. And I'm glad that that was the case. But, that's another story for another time. After separating from the military, I still wanted to serve the nation that I still to this day feel like has given me so much. I got my undergraduate degree in business management with a major in political science, while working for Department of State and Department of Homeland Security, primarily within the intelligence community. During this time, I spent majority of my time overseas, in places like Islamabad, Kabul, working at the US embassies, where I managed various large-scale programs with scope around IT field engineering and language interpretation and IT systems. After that, I completed my executive MBA through University of Maryland. So go Terps if there are Terp fans out there, with a major in financial management and marketing. While finishing that up, I was working in the private sector for companies like SAIC and Booz Allen Hamilton as a senior consultant. After graduation in 2013, I found myself at Fiscal Service, at the Bureau of the Fiscal Service as a GS-15 director, leading federal agency outreach and engagement and kind of, looking at customer experience through a very different lens. At that time, I will tell you that I, didn't really know about the SES service, but I saw a vacancy announcement that came out for the Senior Executive Service Candidate Development Program, right? The SES CDP. And I truly wasn't sure if I wanted to be an SES in the government, to be honest. But to me, I've always said yes to opportunities that come my way. And so here I am in the SES, right? And I'm simplifying my journey intentionally because I'm here to tell you that my career into SES has not been a straight line, right? But I'm so excited because it has allowed me the opportunity to learn and grow, which is of most importance to me. And I hope to everybody listening today, right?
No, thank you, Madiha. And it's so great to have three panelists who have three very different pathways to senior executive service. So I think that's important to highlight. I also think that you're a double unicorn for also being a veteran as well. So thank you for your service. So Subhi, can you do a quick snapshot of your career journey as well?
So thank you, Amber, for the introduction. They always sound larger than life, of which I'm certainly not that. And Ahmed, thanks for MAPS for hosting this event. Peace and greetings to everybody. I would like to start off by acknowledging 4 women, giants on whose shoulders I stood and whose stories and presence in my life shaped me or rounded me up into who I am today. And they are both my grandmothers, my mother, and my sister, who is probably listening in, and my gratitude to them. I would also like to acknowledge another trailblazer public servant, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, whose historic confirmation hearing is happening as we speak now. So all best wishes to her. So in terms of my career journey, the first 10 years working in the field of foreign assistance through USAID was through various non-civil service mechanisms. So what does that mean? That means that I was a contractor, an independent consultant, and a university fellow, but always supporting USAID, really inside the USAID building, not separately from outside. It is just their staff supplementation program. My direct civil service career began with the Department of Health and Human Services as a GS-13. I soon got promoted to the GS-15 level, and I remained at GS-15 for a very long time. Now, for 99% of people, being a GS-15 in a civil service career is the highest you can go, and the highest you will want to go. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I knew that I had the potential to be an influencer and a leader at a higher platform. And in the federal government, the higher platform is the senior executive service. I had to overcome many barriers as I transitioned from senior management to senior executive. I had no champions, no advocates, no mentors, no affinity groups, nobody that looked or sounded like me at that level that I was aspiring to be, nobody that sounded or looked like me in the interview panels. But ultimately, I achieved my goal, and I received my SES certification from the Office of Personnel Management in 2012, and my first appointment in 2013. Very short, and just like Madiha said, it's highly, highly simplified. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Subhi. I think it's amazing that you were able to accomplish that without any mentors and champions. So for the audience, mentors are the folks that help you navigate the workplace, provide advice, and help develop you based on their experience. You know, when I was at the Bureau of Fiscal Service, I had asked Madiha to mentor me while I was there. And champions are a little bit different. So champions are people who will mention your name in the room and nominate you for a role, even when you're not sitting in that room for a special project or something like that. And so, Madiha, I wanted to ask you, what has the role of mentors and champions played for you in your career?
Can you hear me now? Okay, very good. Thanks, Amber. Yeah, this, mentoring amongst many other topics, I'm so passionate about because, mentoring and being a mentee and having champions has truly played an incredibly important role in my life, right? And what I will offer to our audience today is think about, is there someone you look up to whose words, right, hold a heavier weight than others, who seem to be, living a life, whether that be personal or career, that you hope to have one day? We all have someone like that in our lives. And sometimes we just have to, dig deep and just sit down and think about it. And, quite honestly, you might even be that person for someone else and you just don't know it. We are truly living, breathing role models, right? Not just in what we say, but what we do. So, no matter what we say, someone is always watching what we do. And that is not just, once you come into the workforce, but it really truly starts at a very early age, right? It starts very early on, as young as a child. And the other thing I think I want to tell everybody is that, it is mentoring is rooted in relationships, and relationships by definition are reciprocal, right? It's not a one-way street. It takes two people to do this. Now, given once you get into that relationship, one person might be senior and be wiser and have more experience, but that doesn't always have to be the case. I have learned a lot from people that I mentor, right? And I find beauty in that. I will also tell you that mentorship has to be earned, right? And what do I mean by that? Earning mentorship is being vulnerable and opening up and telling your story to the people who are getting to know you, not just what you do, right? But who you are. So whether it's your boss at work or someone you have been following, there are mentorship opportunities everywhere you go. I want people to think about it from this perspective, that people think, right, that mentors are famous people with titles and titles and achievements. And, these could be people that are out in the world. But again, I go back to the point that we are all role models, right? And that even means, everybody here on the panel, in the audience, right? You all are mentors and role models in some shape or form. So, I'll just share a few things, what I thought would be beneficial, right, to get started in a mentoring relationship that helped me throughout my career. And that was, right, be deliberate in your choice of mentors. By that, I mean, take the time to reflect and think about where in your career you are and where you want to be, right? Think about that long term. Consider having different types of mentors, like a peer mentor, right? Someone doing the job you're currently doing, an industry peer or a coworker. Think about next level mentors. This is someone who has the job you want to do in a few years, the skill sets you need to do the job you have now. And the third one, right, is really important, the outlier mentor. And these are people that may not be in an identical career path as you, but that's exactly why they're so important, right? Because you are recognizing them to have a valuable characteristic or skill or trait that you want to emulate. Next, I will tell everybody, you must be open to having multiple mentors, because while, right, one mentor is good, one mentor at a time is fine, but think about it. Do you really think that one person can help you, right, look through your whole self and from all angles? So as I end on this note, right, I will say that definitely be deliberate, consider different types of mentors, and have multiple mentors. And I'm also happy to speak to anybody, right, after this to help you get started or just be a sounding board. So feel free to reach out to me.
So if I could sort of add to Madiha, what you kind of pointed out with mentors, I think one of the things that I found is that some of my the strongest mentors that I've had have also come through as champions for me. And so those individuals, you know, even when maybe I didn't myself recognize some of the strengths or capabilities I had, they did. And they were in the room, you know, advocating for me and saying, you know, she's capable of this and able to do this. And so some of those champions turn into like wonderful mentors because they can kind of help you with getting through like difficult situations, or when you get to a point where in your career where you know you go through this thing called imposter syndrome, which is something that like I think happens to everyone, but it happens, I feel like, more to women than it does to men. And I think I was actually reading in Forbes the other day that, you know, 75% of executive women have identified that they experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives, right? And it's sort of just the feeling that you get that like, you know, am I, you know, in the position that I am in, am I able to handle what's sort of coming at me? And I think everyone sort of experiences that. And using those mentors to be able to sort of help you push through those moments is so important. I think one of the sort of, you have your career mentors, like Madiha was saying, but then you also have some personal mentors. So one of the things that I've sort of found is helpful throughout my career is, you know, I always kind of try to think of in my career move, how would a guy handle this? You know, and I actually use my brother and my husband quite a bit as sounding boards, because I'm asking them, so if you were in my position, you know, would you push for a higher amount of pay raise? You know, would you kind of, how would you approach the situation? Because they do approach it differently than I do. And I find that I sometimes will hold myself back, but they'll be like, no, 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 you push for this. And then I'm like, wait, I need to push a little bit harder here, or I need to be a little bit stronger in my argument here. And I've learned a lot that way. So that's like a whole different avenue of mentorship, getting it from one perspective there. And then also having, you know, the champions that you have at work that see you in and out in how you're you know, you're functioning, and, you know, they have the belief in you, and then you kind of build the belief in yourself. So some of the things that I just have found that help me when I get to a point where, you know, you might have like, you feel like imposters in your role, like, can I really handle this? Like really just focusing on like facts of a situation and thinking about like pros and cons, like building it straight down to like, these are the things that are happening. And then really just understand that there is no perfect answer to a situation sometimes. Like you really do have to think about what is probably best for those that you're trying to help, or those that you're trying to support, the organization that you're in, your office, your team, anything that you're kind of trying to accomplish. You really do have to kind of think about what are the trade-offs there. And there isn't always a perfect answer. You know, you just have to do your best sometimes.
Totally. I know as a young GS15, I have struggled with imposter syndrome myself. But I think what's helped me is also that everyone is kind of just figuring it out as well. Even some of the SES, we are all going through some unprecedented times with the pandemic as well. So thanks for that, Sairah. So next I wanted to talk about the power of personal branding. And Madiha, you are the personal branding guru. So can you please explain to us how folks can utilize that?
Yeah, thank you, Umber. You know, I appreciate you saying I'm the guru, but I will say this, I think it's more passion that I have for this, because it also ties in very nicely with mentoring, right? What Sairah and I just spoke about. As you know, as I was reflecting on this topic today, it truly has helped me be where I am in my career today, right? It's the importance of personal branding. It's a very underutilized topic, and I think that's why I become so passionate about it, because I truly see personal branding as a tool that everyone should engage in to help solidify their career. And truly, it's regardless of age, job title, or industry, personal branding can help you be more, right, discoverable. It can be more like, you know, you can share yourself with others more easily. So to get us started on that topic, I thought I would just start with the basics, right? Which is, what is personal branding? So personal branding is a unique combination of your skills and experiences, the values, ideas, and principles that are important to you as an individual, and the way you express those values in writing or in conversation. You know, when we think of personal branding, we think of it mostly from a professional or career standpoint, but I would tell you that it spans across your career and personal life. It is an ongoing process where you establish a professional image. And, you know, I will say that it's about leaving an impression on others about who you are, what you can do, and why should they want to work with you, right? It almost sounds like marketing, right? And it truly is. And that is what personal branding is about. It's about what people know you for professionally, how people view you, and the value that you will bring to others. And, you know, as I've been, you know, reading up on this topic, there are many articles out there. And of course, I'm willing to share those articles also that I have read and learned from, and books, you know, after the chat. But, you know, what does getting started look like? I will say that it's about knowing yourself, right? So personal branding, if you want to get started on what that means for you, take some time to think about your skills and strengths. Basically, like kind of try to map it out. Make a list of things you do well, both personally and professionally. Think about the things that motivate you, that get you going, right? The things that you do that get the most compliments and the tasks that you're enjoying the most. And, you know, Sairah mentioned something as she was talking about mentoring, right? Like how she utilizes her husband and her brother. I will say, as for personal branding as well, ask your friends and family members to help you, right? Enlist them. Say, hey, you know, what do I do good? Like, tell me, give me the bad, the good, and the ugly. And, you know, they'll be happy to help you with that, right? So they may even identify areas of strength that you yourself had no idea that, you know, that was the case. The next thing in personal branding basics is figure out your why. And I know it sounds like duh, right? But really take the time, sit down and think about why you absolutely love doing what you do, right? I know for me, I love being in public service because at the end of the day, I feel like I'm giving back and I'm servicing others who have given me so much, right? So figure out that why. Make a list of 2 or 3 things that drive the passions behind your work every day. And, you know, truly this list will also help you not only do the personal brand, but it will help you plan ahead for your future, right? Think about where you want to go in your career. Be authentic in all communications. And, you know, I will say this to this point that most people aren't expecting perfection, right? Even as I was prepping for this, I had nerves in my belly, right? Because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be speaking to people that don't even know me. But, you know, I am sure that I'm making mistakes here, but no one is judging me, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all humans. We're trying to do the best that we can. So all I can say is, from a personal brand perspective, you have to be authentic, right? And just being yourself goes a long way. Send a consistent message. Regardless of the platform, keep your message consistent. Whether that is you're writing your resumes, you're sitting down for an interview, carry the same message across all channels. And that's part of building your personal brand. So what do I mean by that, right? Are you an eternal optimist? So, that will help inspire others to learn and grow, which is great. Use that. That could be part of your personal brand narrative, right? And then be proactive when you're creating this personal brand. I will tell you, in my career, in my experience, managers love proactive employees, right? I'm pretty sure we all can agree to that. Who are, employees who are one step ahead and have a solution to a problem without being asked. And that could be also part of your personal brand. The other thing I think that's important is to assess yourself. Look back over your career to assess your performance, growth, and goals. Are there any weaknesses or opportunities for improvement? And as you assess, this is a good time to also enlist your mentor, right? Or your family and friends to kind of look through, hey, am I on the right path? And, at the end, help is available. And what I mean by that is, if you feel stuck, reach out to your network. That's why mentoring is, important. That's why having champions and advocates is important. And I guess finally, on personal brand, I will say that I believe that there are 3 things that can help you advance your personal brand and career. And whether you're staying where you are or you're ready for a career change, be kind to everyone, because it matters more than you think in your career growth. Make yourself available and be others centered. We often get so wrapped up in advancing our careers that we forget one of the best ways to advance is to focus on helping others. And, I could not emphasize that point enough.
Thank you for that, Madiha. And Subhi, you went from being a technical subject matter expert to wanting to be in the senior executive service. Can you talk about the role of having to switch your personal brand?
Yeah, so Madiha, that was a very nice overview or context. And I'm going to provide a very concrete example of personal branding in my career. So it's, as Madiha said, it's how people perceive you based on your set of expertise and experience. So for 25 years, I was a public health advisor, a global health advisor, and a good one too, a well-known one, a well-regarded one, not only in the industry here in the US, but also globally with multilateral and bilateral partners. I had global health stamped on my forehead. That was my identity. I remember sitting in a SES panel, interview panel, where everybody knew me. All the panelists knew me because it was a small agency. We all knew each other. But they absolutely couldn't shift their view of me as from a subject matter expert to a senior executive who could lead enterprise level management and operations. And even though at the end of when I asked for a debrief, you must always ask for debriefs, by the way, from interviews. I found out that my scores were the same, but they didn't find me the right fit. So even though there are technical scores and there are whatever scores, there is one unspoken criterion that panelists, or not the panelists, but the hiring officer, often the hiring officers are different from the panelists, is that, are you the right fit? Okay. And I went and I spoke to each of the panelists, asking them for their feedback. And I was consistently told that I had to change my personal branding. So what does that mean? And what did I do? Firstly, I switched jobs. Okay. Even though public health was my passion, but I wanted a higher platform and I knew that I couldn't get it at the technical subject matter pillar I was in. So I switched jobs. I went to the management bureau and took a management and operations position. Secondly, I deliberately and proactively made myself more visible, made presentations at the enterprise level, wrote opinion papers, volunteered for the toughest assignments that nobody else would take, okay? And believe me, in the operations sector, in the federal government, there are lots and lots of very areas where things don't work. And nobody wants to sort of go near them. So I did that to make myself known and to change people's perception of me. But when you're in a small agency, that takes time to change people's perception. So my third, I think my strongest strategy here was to explore SES positions outside my agency, where people would see me with my qualifications and not have the baggage of knowing me before, okay? And that's sort of how I dealt with personal branding, and it worked. It was successful for me at the end.
Subhi, I'm so glad you shared that, that specific example, because I can't agree with you more, right? That sometimes it's the perceptions of others, right? And what I will tell our audience is, don't be afraid to leave and then come back, right? Because it's all about creating that narrative for yourself and showing that you can do different things. So Subhi, thank you. I really appreciate that story.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too, because at my small agency, people just kept thinking of me as a presidential management fellow, even though I had left that program a long time ago. So it's nice to recently start at HUD and not have that baggage. So Subhi, I want to stay on you a little bit, because I think it's safe to say that you were the first Muslim career SES. And I know that throughout my career journey, I've had some highs and lows and had to learn how to build resilience. Can you share some advice to the audience on how they can build resilience and why that is important in climbing the federal ladder?
Yes, so what's resilience? It's the capacity to bounce back. It's the capacity to recover quickly after difficulties. And in a lot of cases, we bounce back stronger and better because we learn as we go. And I would say that for me, the two characteristics that best describe a resilient person is someone who is self-aware and someone who has a strong sense of purpose. I think what you're going to find throughout what Sairah and Madiha and I are saying, there's some threads of concepts and principles. We can sum it up towards the end, but you'll hear very similar things because they are sort of the principles upon which life and career evolve, not just revolve, but evolve. So being self-aware and having a sense of purpose is what a resilient person is. And by being self-aware, you can maintain control of your situation, your surrounding, and come up with problems to solve issues. And I would say that, in my view, I would use 4 strategies to build a more resilient person. And I think it's very similar to what Madiha presented in terms of mentoring and personal branding. And that's, you need to know yourself. You need to reflect and you need to assess yourself. You need to know your strengths and weaknesses. A leader needs to understand herself so she can lead others out of adverse situations. That you are the start of the journey to success, not others. The second thing I would say is be purpose-driven. Know what you want, excuse me, know what your goal is. Find your North Star. Sounds like a cliche, but find your North Star and be faithful to your North Star. It's okay to, meander a bit in life. I think we have all done that. But your ultimate higher level goal should be what's driving you on a day-to-day basis. And again, echoing what Madiha said, live and learn. Do not underestimate the power of failure. Never let a failure go to waste. Every failure brings you a step closer to success. I cannot emphasize that enough. I don't know any, and I will not believe if anybody says there's a person who's not ever failed or not faced failure, because it simply doesn't happen. And you need to be resilient to then bounce back to learn from the mistakes. Lastly, in terms of resilient strategy, I would say cultivate relationships. Relationships help in so many ways. I'm just going to focus on one aspect of it for resiliency. It helps you feel connected. You're not alone, You'll be able to draw upon these relationships in moments when you need them and use them to your advantage. And it may sound Machiavellian, but really do it with integrity. In relationships, be reciprocal, pay it forward, but also use them to your advantage. It's building your support system and being part of a support system for others. So I will say that most of us will need a little bit of help during our journey climbing up the mountain. And believe me, it can be a steep mountain, okay, with lots of crevices. Some of us may need supplemental oxygen. Some of us may need a band of Sherpas to carry our load. Some of us may need an expert guide to find us the best route. But we all need to lean in on our relationships to reach the top. And I think we're going to come back again and again to this aspect of relationships in our lives, especially in our career.
If I could share sort of something that was very impactful to me that really resonates with what Subhi just mentioned. There have been moments where others' resiliency has really inspired me to be able to continue in my career. I was looking at different options for where I wanted to be able to go in my career and trying to decide where to go. And I was hesitating on taking a position that I was discussing with someone at OMB because I was worried about the climate. And this was during the prior administration, and just the climate up there and my ability to be able to be effective. This coworker, this champion of mine, introduced me to another individual who was also hijabi. She worked up in OMB, and she was there when the new administration turned over. And she was there through, I think, maybe the first 2 years of the time during that administration, where there were a lot of things that were coming out that, were not necessarily looking to emphasize or promote or put us in a position that is very comfortable for Muslims or Muslim women, much less. And she said something to me that really just resonated with me. She's like, I questioned whether I should be there or not, and if I should leave. And, I reached out back to some individuals at the mosque, and they talked to me, and they said that God put you there for a reason. Your presence in that location at that time was where you were meant to be. And sometimes your very presence in a room when some conversations are happening can make a difference. You might not even have to say something, but the fact that you are there in that room can impact the conversation. It can impact the direction that things are going. And this is why it's so important for Muslims and Muslim women, especially, to get into these roles where we are able to help make a better world for folks. And so that was just so impactful to me, because her resilience and being able to still be effective was not even something that she necessarily had to, she had to act upon, in that, she had to, continue to work in the environment that she was in. She had to continue to push through the obstacles that she was facing. But just her very presence, was impactful to, the direction of some decisions that were going to be made.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Sairah, and thank you for being vulnerable as well, because it's so true. All right, so I'm going to ask the question that I think all of the audience is waiting for. So can you three give us any advice for those specifically looking to join the Senior Executive Service? So any programs you would recommend, any panel interview advice, how do you get your ECQs, or general advice? And I'll start with you, Subhi.
So I'll give you two quick pointers. I'm a product of OPM, Senior Executive Service Candidate Development Program, CDP. Often it has a bad rap, but for me, it worked. And I would say, so CDPs are run by various agencies, not all agencies. So find one that's running a program and apply and try to get in. It gives you a very, very strong leadership training, and really helps you then focus on the 5 ECQs. If people don't know what the ECQs are, these are the executive core qualifications of being results, leading people, leading change, results-driven, business acumen, and building coalitions. As a graduate of the program, you'll receive an SES certification, and which makes it easier then to be appointed. So I would say definitely look into the CDP programs. Then I would say, and which may be far more important, and again, bringing this thread of building good relationships. Your corridor reputation matters. Your corridor reputation matters. 99% of your success will be based on your relationships at that level, okay? At that level, you're wheeling and dealing, it's turf issues. You're fighting for turf, you're fighting for budget, and you cannot do it if you don't have the right relationships in the right places. It just has immeasurable benefits. And I will say that I want to recommend this book, The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. If you want concrete examples of how to build a relationship where people can trust you and you can trust people, I cannot overemphasize how useful this book has been to me.
Sairah, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, everything Subhi mentioned, that's 100% on. Your relationships and networks matter so much. And, building, Madiha was mentioning before about your personal brand, right? Like really get knowledgeable in your field and go after it, like come up with the new ideas and then execute them and show your boss where things can go. And that helps build your brand as someone who is dependable and hardworking and is thoughtful and really just takes the initiative and drive to do things. Doing those things helps build your brand in that, you're thought of as someone who can kind of help push past past obstacles. All of us are facing obstacles in our lives and have had to push to get to the point where we are right now. And so we all have experienced obstacles. It's taking what we've learned there and applying that sort of back to our work and the way that we, handle obstacles. Look at the facts, draw the pros and cons. What is for the betterment of, the purpose of what you're trying to do. And then I would say the other thing is, you have people that are championing you, but don't forget to also echo the voices of others, right? Be that megaphone in the conference room when you see a teammate say something or another individual on your team say something and they're not being heard, say what they said again, right? Be their megaphone. You be the voice for those that don't have the voice, and then help kind of build that trust and lead them as you're leading the team to, what you're trying to accomplish. But yeah, I think Subhi and mentioned, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Madiha, do you have any SES advice as well?
Yeah, totally, Amber. And, I think Subhi and Sairah have said it so well. I will just add that, I'm a great example on the side of the fact that, your careers does not have to be a straight line, right? I mentioned that earlier. And I will also tell you that everyone's journey is not going to be exactly the same, right? Even when you're wanting to do the same thing, you're still going to have a different journey. So there isn't an exact science. What I will offer to everybody is stop worrying, right? If you're worrying about yourself, if you're thinking, am I succeeding? Am I in the right position? Am I being appreciated? Then you're going to end up feeling frustrated and stuck. It's about the mindset, right? But if you keep it about the work, you'll always have a path. If you keep it about your North Star, as Subhi mentioned earlier, there's always something to be done, right? That's going to help you. Be willing to stretch to get the job you want. Instead of waiting around, and I think Subhi gave great examples, Sairah gave great examples, right? Instead of waiting around to get your dream job or a promotion, you need to be willing to stretch to make that happen. And sometimes that stretch even looks lateral, right? It doesn't come with a promotion, but you stretch yourself. And this is a very important point because sometimes we're not aware of how we can translate certain skills or other skills. And we tend to say things like, well, I'm not ready for that. I'm going to wait, right? Don't do that. And this is where, again, the personal brand, the mentorship comes into play. Be confident and willing to stretch. And I can't emphasize this point enough, that find and nurture good relationships and good mentors and those advocates. That's the key.
Thank you, Madiha.
One more thing.
Go for it.
No, I just want to add, so that just what Madiha said just reminded me of one thing that I know that when I wanted to become an SES, I had a frank conversation with my current SES. Like, have the conversation and be explicit. I am working towards becoming an SES. Can you help me achieve this goal? How can I, if you don't tell people that that's what you're working towards, no one's going to know. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in as well.
Thank you. So I've gotten a lot of direct messages about how do you all balance your work and life? And then also have you had to delay any of your career choices due to family obligations? So yeah, how does the role of being mothers in SES, how have you guys dealt with that?
So I can say a few things about that. I think one of the reasons why I remained a GS15, actually GS15 is pretty cool, okay? Just because we are SASs, we are, it seems like GS15 is not cool. It's very cool. And it's a very successful, it's the highest civil service GS level, really. I remained a GS15 for a long time. I think one of the reasons was that the kids were growing up. It's like a lot of times in the soccer fields, I was traveling overseas a lot, like every 6 weeks I would go far, far away. And I might have unconsciously put off the transition to the higher level at that time. I mean, I was just happy where I was. The second thing I would say that, and I want to echo what Sairah said, I cannot say enough about the support my husband gave me when I transitioned to the senior executive service. He was my personal mentor. He had worked at the executive level and he was actually retired, just had retired then. And to have someone where I could really, really be vulnerable, where someone who knew me as a person, my strengths, my weaknesses, it's taking pillow talk to a different level. And he was a man, my SES boss was a man. To be able to ask him, so how would you respond? And why do you think Bob said that? Why do you think Bob reacted like that? It was wonderful to have that sounding body for me. And I could not be as successful as I was without my husband.
Yeah, I think we heard that from Sairah too. Having a very strong support system at home definitely has allowed you all to thrive. So I think that's an important message.
So, sorry. Oh, I was just going to mention, so, in my career, I had my children a little bit early, but there was a point, where I was continuing to progress and I did not feel like I was giving my children enough time. And I wasn't, able to be there for the field trips or, help out as much at home. And I slid back a bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no such thing as balancing work and life and really being able to do both well at the same time. You can do the best you can, and that's okay. You have to rely on your network. I have my mom and my family close by that helped me quite a bit with my children when they were young. So I mean, I was when I went back to I went to the private sector and worked, and was coming back to the government again, and I was going to come in at the 15 level. So yes, it was still going to be very demanding, but I was pulling back a little bit from the work side, because I feel like there are points in your life where you're going to focus on, I need to push forward in my work, and I need to give a little more attention at home. Doing both of those things is very difficult. And I don't know, in my experience, I don't think it exists. I think there's one way that will always win out a bit more. So when I wanted to progress in my career, I had the conversation with my husband when I was going from the government and deciding to go into the private sector. I was like, it's going to be more demanding. I'm going to have to do more of this and that. I'm going to, how are we going to balance that at home? And that's where other folks in the family stepped up and helped me be able to do that. I know others don't have that. I've been very fortunate in my life that, I've had a strong family support structure, but I don't think that there's a such thing as doing both well.
No, and
Sairah, I could not, go ahead, Subhi, sorry.
I just one little point. I want to say that it's a complete myth to say that there's a superwoman. There is no such thing as a superwoman.
No such thing.
No such thing. So
yeah, Sairah, I could not agree with you more. So I had kids later in life, so that's why I have a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, right? But to your point, it's you cannot do both, and this is where I come back to, right? The personal branding. Figure out your why. because that why will then help you figure out, okay, where do you want to put more weight in? Where do you want to put more focus in? As long as you know your why, you can get to wherever you're trying to go to. And sometimes that may look like Sairah, like you, right? Taking a little step back. Or sometimes that may look like, okay, you know what? I need to enlist my entire village, my support system, and, you know, push through this. So that would be my advice.
Thank you all. So I know I have another questions about mentors, but I'm going to direct you to Madiha, Latif. So I put everybody's LinkedIn in the chat, so you can go follow them and then message the 3 panelists if you have any follow-up questions. Again, I just want to thank Subhi, Sairah, and Madiha again for this unprecedented event and for giving us all of their great advice on how to climb that career ladder. Studies show that when you have someone that looks like you, you're more likely to break the ceiling. And so I know that was very meaningful for me as well. So again, thank you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Amber.
Thanks, Amber. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you, everyone. Take care.